Hello my friends and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. I have here the daily update from the Ukrainian front as I do it every day. I use two sources, one from the Ukrainian side, the other one from the Russian side. In this case I have the Ukrainska Pravda and I have here Sputnik. Ukrainska Pravda goes with paragraphs and beautiful, and Russians go with like a map. Let me show you how it is. This is the Ukrainian article, regular article, right over there, and then you have the Russian, which is with bullets here. Each color represents certain kind of activity or operation. For instance, the blue ones here, there are Ukrainian shelling attacks. Yellow bullets are attacks with missiles that, or with aircraft that were destroyed by the Russians. The red ones are Russian attacks, and then the black ones are the Russian and Ukrainian forces meeting face to face right here. The Ukrainians start their update from Chernihiv Oblast, going to Sumy Oblast, going to Kharkiv Oblast, going to Luhansk, Donetsk, Zaporozhye, and then Kherson. It seems like something happened here in the Crimean Peninsula as well. So let's start with the Ukrainians and see what's going on. This article comes from Russian forces keep storming city of Bakhmut and conducting offensive actions on several fronts, according to Ukrainska Pravda. So it says that the 371st day of the Russian large-scale invasion is ongoing. The Russian Federation is focusing its main efforts on conducting offensive actions on the Kupiansk, Liman, Bakhmut, Avdiivka, and Shakhtarsk fronts. The hostile country keeps violating the norms of international humanitarian law, continues to carry out strikes, artillery shelling of civilians. They always say this. It goes without saying, so let's move on. On 28 February to 1st March, Russian troops launched 3 missile attacks on civilian targets in Kharkiv Oblast. There are injured civilians. The invaders also carried out 16 strikes, including with the use of 2 Shahid 136 UAVs. Ukrainian defenders shot down the kamikaze drones. I thought the Russians ran out of these things, according to you guys. The Russian army conducted over 20 attacks using multiple launch rocket systems. The threat of missile attacks throughout Ukraine remains high. Yes, they have about 14 or 15 ships in the Black Sea right here, and usually when they have that with 32, 35 caliber cruise missiles ready, when that occurs, usually between 24 to 48 hours, massive attack occurs here. So get ready. On the Volyn-Polisia, Sivershchnya, and Slobozhanchnya fronts, the situation did not change significantly. No offensive groups of the occupiers were detected. The Russian forces attacked the areas in and around the settlements of, this is in Chernihiv Oblast, then Sumy Oblast, and then Kharkiv Oblast. They used an UAV with a combat payload near the settlements of Budarsky and Kharkiv Oblast. So basically, I said nothing really mattered, or nothing really, happened in these 3 right here: Chernihiv, Sumy, Kharkov. Kharkov is the Russian name of Kharkiv. Now we're going to go here and see what's going on here according to Ukrainians. The Russian army is equipping the border areas of the settlements of Gorkovsky and Novostroitelka Vlotraya in Belgorod Oblast with engineering equipment and installing anti-tank barriers. Belgorod is right here, north of Kharkiv Oblast in the Russian Federation. As I saw another article saying that the Russians are bringing troops from Belarus, about 500, with about 20 trucks, and they bring heavy equipment here to the front, trained. So 500 troops. I don't think that's a big deal, but if they're very well trained and organized, they can do some damage. On the Kupiansk and Liman fronts, Russian troops conducted offensive actions near the settlements of Bilohorivka, Luhansk Oblast, and Fedorivka in Donetsk Oblast. So they're talking about this area right here. It's hard to find them on the Russian map because they have different names. For instance, right here, Liman, I found Liman right here, and they were talking about Liman right here, Kupiansk and Liman fronts. Let's see what the Russians are saying about what's going on in Liman, for instance. Russian air defenses shot down 2 Ukrainian drones. And then let's see what is these things. Forces of the Zapad group struck Ukraine armed forces units using artillery, heavy flamethrowers, and airstrikes. And let's see what's over here. Forces of the Center group, supported by artillery, struck Ukraine armed forces, troops, and military equipment in the course of active combat operations. As I said, this is active combat operation. And as I said, this is Luhansk, this is Donetsk here. So the Ukrainians are going to come down with the front. And this is where is the hottest, right here. Where is Artemovsk? This is Bakhmut. Russian for Bakhmut is Artemovsk. And then you can have here Ugledar, which is Vuhledar, Marinka, and Avdiivka. These are the most important. But you see this little thing here. I'm waiting for that to turn in this color, because if the Russians succeed here, let's see what happened here. Forces of the Center group supported by artillery struck. Okay, so it's active combat operations. If they break there, these two here and this, that's gone towards Kramatorsk and Sloviansk. The Russians reported that supposedly the Americans brought in Kramatorsk some chemicals for are planning to conduct a false flag operation here. Well, we'll find out soon. Now, all right, where are we here? They also carried out artillery strikes in the areas in and around the settlements of Liman, the ones I showed you right here. Liman, Pershchi, and Kharkiv Oblast, all this in Kharkiv Oblast. Then Chernovo-Povivka and Nevske in Luhansk Oblast, and Terny and Koti something in Donetsk Oblast. So basically they say they are using artillery in this area. These blue ones are Ukrainian attacks, shelling. Let's go on this one and see what they say, the Russians. Ukrainian forces fired 13 shells at the city. This one, Ukrainian forces fired 2 HIMARS rockets at the city. 3 civilians were wounded. Okay, let's see in the Donetsk. Ukrainian forces fired 4 shells at the city. Ukrainian forces shelled the Kirovsky, Kublyansky, Kievsky, and Petrovsky districts. They fired 23 MLRS rockets and 58 shells at the city. 3 civilians were wounded. All right, let's go back to the Ukrainians. On the Bakhmut front, here we go. This is what this is very important here. Not that anything else was not, but on the Bakhmut front, the Russian advance is ongoing. Now, if that comes from the Ukrainians, that means it's kind of like dead already. Russian forces keep storming the city of Bakhmut. Ukrainian defenders repel Russian attacks in and around the settlements of Bakhmut, Kromove, and Ivanivske in Donetsk Oblast, Vasyukivka, Zalinitske in Bakhmut, and New York, if you didn't know that one, in Donetsk Oblast were affected by Russian fire. Let's see what these guys are saying in Bakhmut, the Russians. Fighting is taking place in the city outskirts. Russian forces defeated the Ukrainian armed forces Boris Johnson unit. They destroyed a Boris Johnson unit. Yeah, I have that ready for an article, because it's very important that such a group unit was destroyed. This is for morale reasons. On the Avdiivka and Shakhtarsk fronts, Russian troops carried out failed offensive actions in and around the settlements of Kamyanka, in Donetsk Oblast, and then Vuhledar in Donetsk Oblast came under Russian fire. So they say the Russian tried here, as I said, Vuhledar, Marinka, and Avdiivka, but nothing, they're failed. Let's gonna move to Zaporozhye Oblast. So on the Zaporozhye and Kherson fronts, Kherson is the one on the bottom right here. So Zaporozhye and then Kherson. As you see, the Ukrainians bombarded a lot, shelled. So on the Zaporozhye and Kherson fronts, the Russian army is on the defensive. It is trying to create conditions for an offensive in some areas. Russian troops shelled over 40 areas in and around settlements using artillery, in particular Donetsk Oblast, Zaporozhye Oblast, and Kherson Oblast, and the city of Kherson itself. Over the past 24 hours, the air forces of the defense forces carried out 16 strikes on the clusters of invaders' military personnel and equipment. Probably they talk about all this, the blue bullets right here. Ukrainian defenders also shot down a Russian Orlan 10 unmanned aerial vehicle. Ukrainian rocket forces and artillery struck one cluster of Russian troops, 2 ammunition storage points, and 2 electronic warfare systems. I'm assuming here. Let's see what they did. Let's take this one. Ukrainian forces shelled civilian infrastructure. Okay, no wonder. Ukrainian forces shelled the village using barrel artillery. Ukrainian forces shelled the village using barrel artillery. They fired a total of 7 shells right here. Ukrainian forces shelled the village using barrel artillery. Let's see what they did here. Ukrainian forces shelled the village using barrel artillery. They fired a total of 8 shells. Russian air defense shot down 2 Ukrainian drones. Okay, let's see what the Russians did here in Kherson. Russian forces destroyed an ammunition depot of the Ukrainian Armed Forces 123rd Separate Territorial Defense Brigade. And these things here. Russian artillery units destroyed the Ukrainian 2S-3 Akatsiya howitzer along with its ammunition and 2 vehicles. 15 Ukrainian Air Forces soldiers were killed, 8 more were wounded. And this one right here. Russian artillery units, 5 soldiers were killed, and they destroyed the Ukrainian 2S-1 Gvodzilla howitzer along with its ammunition. So this is the update of today, this evening. The Ukrainians are bringing 2 updates daily, one at about 7 o'clock a.m. Kiev time, the other one at between 6 p.m. and 7 p.m. Kiev time. The Russian brings their update about 2-3 hours, so that would be 8 or 9 p.m. I think, something like that, even though sometimes it varies. So this is the evening update. The next update is going to be tomorrow for the past 24 hours. Well, Bakhmut, as I said, the Ukrainians say that they want to save lives, therefore retreat, which I think they should. They said they will bring reinforcements, but then an article that I read said that the reinforcements came or are about to come too late, the ammunition too late, therefore they have to see you next time. Well, thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.